Commissioner Kurlicki, are you ready to start? Commissioner Kurlicki, are you ready to start? How about that? Oh, yeah, okay. Wow. Commissioner Kurlicki, are you ready to start?
I absolutely am, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. This is Thursday, April 20th, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of April. If you could rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
All right, at this time, I would like to remind anyone coming to the podium to speak that we ask that you speak directly into the microphone and speak as clearly as possible, as this meeting is being transmitted electronically and being transcribed. So, Madam Secretary, if we could we proceed to our first agenda item, please, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
All right, anyone who wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. Matters brought to our attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we are happy to hear comments of the public as well as from my fellow commissioners. Comments by all will be limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If any of my fellow commissioners or myself ask questions of the public, the time needed to address those questions will not be held against those time constraints. If you have any handouts or copies of your comments to provide, please hand those to an enforcement agent who will secure those from you. First, I will go to Carson City. Is there anyone present there who wishes to make a public comment? Please step forward to the podium. There is
no one wishing public comment, Carson City.
Thank you. How about here in Las Vegas? There is no one present for the public comment, and at this time, we will close our public comment section. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's disposition.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition from March 2023.
All right, I believe all of us have had the opportunity to review the disposition. If there are no questions, I think, or comments, it's in proper form for a motion.
Chair, I move to approve the prior month's disposition.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And there were none opposed. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in the restricted consent items.
Your items on the restricted consent agenda this morning are items 5 through 8 and item 10. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
All right, do any of the commissioners have any comment or questions or discussion on the consent items today? There being none, does anyone have a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd move for approval of restricted agenda items 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 is read into the record and is approved, recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and there are none opposed. Thank you. We're moving on to non-restricted items held out for discussion. Madam Secretary, I believe that brings us to item number 1, non-restricted.
Non-restricted number 1 is the application of International Game Technology PLC for an amendment to their order of registration. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair Togliatti, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Greg Giordano, the law firm McDonald Carano, appearing on behalf of the applicant, International Game Technology PLC. With me here at the podium to my right is Chris Messino. She's Director of Regulatory Compliance for IGT. Madam Chair, as was discussed, the board made these applications for the amendment to order registration basically have 3 different areas. The first was a change in the common security agent with the replacement of NatWest, formerly known as the Royal Bank of Scotland, by Mediobanca. And then secondly, also some changes to new paragraph 6 of the order to reflect the current indebtedness secured by pledges of the equity securities of the National Game Technology. And finally, updates to deletion, removal of old paragraphs 5 and 6 to reflect current licenses and some entities that are no longer licensed or registered in Nevada with the Nevada Gaming Commission. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have concerning the application, but that essentially is the application as discussed at the board.
Thank you. At this time, I will open it up to my colleagues. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Commissioner Brown?
Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Just
you.
had a couple of quick questions.
Certainly.
How many employees work out of the Reno Center? I was curious about that.
Chris, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. And then I know that IGT doesn't operate direct to customer sports betting in the US. Can you tell me why not?
It just is not a business model that we were seeking to participate in.
Thank you. Just piqued my curiosity. I have no areas of concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Krolicki, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not.
Anybody else? Well, we appreciate your being here today, and we've all reviewed either in writing or on video the meeting of the board. And so I don't have any questions or comments or concerns. And if someone has a motion, I will support it.
Chair, I would just add that we have reviewed draft number 2 dated April 4th, 2023 of the 13th revised road registration, and we are fine with its terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Gaming Control Board pursuant to the 13th revised order of registration draft 2 dated April 4th, 2023.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you being here. All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 2?
Non-restricted number 2 are the applications of John McManus for licensure as a key executive as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. I believe we have disclosures on this item.
I do have a number of them, and thank you for your patience in advance. Mandalay Corp. And Mandalay Resort Group are intellectual property clients of Louis Roca. Newcastle LLC is an affiliate of MGM Resorts International, a client of Louis Roca. Park MGM is an intellectual property client of Louis Roca and an affiliate of MGM Resorts International. Ramparts LLC is an intellectual property client of Louis Roca and also an affiliate of MGM Resorts International, Mandalay Resort Group, Mandalay Corp., and City Center Land LLC. Louis Roca is a firm where I'm a partner, and I'm not personally involved in any of these matters at Louis Roca. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I don't believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I also have a disclosure to make. Mr. McManus's duties over the years through the multiple properties for which he has been involved with MGM. I've had occasion to work as a mediator, whether it was in a district court judge capacity or a private mediator over the years with him in what are by their nature confidential cases. However, when I was appointed to this commission, I ceased all mediation work with any licensees, and so I have not had occasion to work on any case that has been involved with an MGM property. And I don't think I make that disclosure in an abundance of caution, and I conclude that the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be affected by this relationship, and therefore I intend to participate. Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yes,
Thank you.
we're finally done. If he hadn't been around so long, maybe this disclosure would be.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, Sean McGinnis with Butler Snow on behalf of MGM Resorts International. With me is John McManus, who's on the agenda for updated finding suitability licensure. He's found suitable license on many prior occasions. However, it's been quite some time since he's appeared in that capacity for his own personal licensing for the commission. So I thought the best thing to do is have Mr. McManus sort of provide a brief update, a brief summary of his background to get it on the record, and then we can answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. John McManus, for the record. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Executive Secretary Rippert. Thank you for having me here today. I've been in Nevada since 1993. Started the law firm at the time it was Shrek Jones, then moved to the Sahara Hotel as general counsel. I was there for 5 years, and then in 2001 moved to MGM, at the time MGM Mirage. I was at MGM Grand Hotel as assistant general counsel. I moved through the company in various sort of operational legal roles. And then in 2008 became assistant general counsel in corporate, and then in late 2009 became acting general counsel, which in 2010 they removed the acting word. And recently my title was changed to chief legal and administrative officer, and the administrative officer part was more in recognition of different roles I'd picked up over the years in terms of departments that report to me that are probably not traditional legal, such as aviation and security and government affairs. So it was not the addition of any new duties recently, but rather sort of recognition of the evolution of my role. And enjoyed my time with the company. Hope to be here for a bit longer if they'll have me, and I'm happy to answer any questions about either my background or the state of the company.
Thank you. I will. That's got to be the worst. Okay, sorry about that. Commissioner Krolicki, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any questions or comments?
Comments, no questions. Mr. McManus, welcome. Yes, you have been in this space for a very long time and a very familiar face. And I want to say congratulations to you and your colleagues on the news out of Osaka, Japan for MGM. But I have no questions. I'm perfectly comfortable in proceeding.
Thank you very much.
I also didn't have any concerns with your background. I did want to see if you could tell us a little bit about some of the community organizations that you're involved with. I know you sacrificed your hair. You've sacrificed your hair in the past.
Yeah,
for,
I'm
St. Baldrick's.
about a month past that now, so I'm kind of in the chia pet stage where I can't do anything with it. Yeah, I'm on the board of St. Baldrick's now. St. Baldrick's is a national organization that raises money for childhood cancer research. It doesn't directly conduct any research, but rather has a scientific team of volunteers, mostly pediatric oncologists, who review grant requests from really anywhere, and they sort of score them, and they give the money to where they think the work is the most promising. So they raise as much money as we can, shaving our heads and doing a few other things, and give it to where the science is most promising. So it's a organization I feel good about participating in. I've lost my hair 9 years in a row now. So some year it'll stop growing back, and I'll have to stop doing that.
Well, thank you for doing that. Maybe they can raise money by polishing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm worried they'll take my eyebrows, but
I don't think so. I also wanted to congratulate you and the company on the Osaka news. That's great news. You've always been good community partners, and I appreciate that, and all of your community involvement, yours personally as well as the company's.
Oh, thank you very much. The Osaka project has been a long time coming. I've only gone over there once, and it was in 2014, if that gives you a sense for how long this took. So it's I can't take much credit for it, but there's a lot of people in the company who work very hard, and hopefully we'll make Las Vegas and Nevada proud with what we do there. So it's quite a large scale project.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. If any of my colleagues do, I'd pass.
Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. McManus. I have absolutely no issues, with the application before us. I just had a quick question. What is, if you know, or even if it's out there, what is going to be the regulatory scheme for Japan for licensing?
I'm not. I think it's a single body, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you know, Sean? I'm not the
Yeah.
one in the day-to-day on what they're doing.
I'm not 100% sure either, Commissioner Cohen, but I do know that this goes back a while. I remember around the same time that John went to Japan, I know that Japan sent over some, government officials to discuss how Nevada does regulation. And I know that they met with the board at the time, and they also have been dealing with UNLV and the Gaming Institute there. So I believe they took great recognition of the Nevada model into what they're doing, but how they're specifically doing that, I don't know. But we can follow up with you and get you.
No, it was just for my own curiosity, just whether they were going to follow, for the most part, the Nevada type of two-tiered system.
They've been probably even more thorough than Singapore in how much they have studied. So, and I apologize. I'm just not the person who's been on the ground. Last time I was there was 2014, and there are certainly people in my company who could answer that question. Unfortunately, I'm not the one.
But congratulations, on the Japanese project.
Well, thank you.
Good
Thank
for
you
you,
very
good for the
much.
company.
Commissioner Brown?
Squeaky clean record. I have no questions for you. I mean, your tenure with the company and the loyalty is commendable. I think it should not be unmentioned. I mean, it's impressive. You've been with them for so long and clearly an asset. But if you could just give me a brief company overview, just any highlights you'd like to hit since you came all this way for us.
Sure. And I'll first comment that our earnings release is in about 10 days, so I'm going to be careful about touching on anything that could be construed
Of
to
course, yes.
be performance related. We're in a good place since coming out of the pandemic. I think obviously that was challenging for everyone in the industry, but I feel like we did a very good job working with government officials, working with labor, working with health experts. So we positioned the company well to come through that. Since then, we've dealt with labor shortages like everyone else, and it's been a challenge getting staffing back to get fully reopened. In Las Vegas, I feel like we're more or less there. We used to get these reports on how many thousands of open positions we have, and now it's how many hundreds of open positions we have. And I think we've gotten pretty efficient at how we fill those. And the business has been strong over the last year and a half, as I think you probably all see from the monthly and quarterly reports that come out. And we look forward to continued strength in the Las Vegas market. We have some competitors who are about to come online with some nice projects, but it's sort of been a history of rising tide lifting all boats here. As new things come on, it attracts more tourists. We're continuing to invest money in our Las Vegas properties and our regional properties as well. We've executed on a few transactions. We sold the Mirage to the Seminoles of Hard Rock, and I think they're going to do a great job with that, reinventing what they do there. And then we've acquired the Cosmopolitan, and on the regionals, we sold Gold Strike Tunica, and I think we're well positioned just to continue sort of a good streak, and I feel like the company is in a good place. Our balance sheet is strong. I think you hear a lot about inflation and potential recession, and I remember all too well when City Center was going to open, and then we had the financial crisis, and we were frankly scrambling. And now we've got a lot of cash, and we're in a good place from that standpoint. If we do see a dip, so far, things have been good in our industry, and hopefully they'll continue. So
Thank you so much. It's very concise and helpful. I appreciate it. And it was nice to see you. I have no areas of concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I would just say that, over the years, I've always been really impressed with the versatility of your work. I know you from years past in a complex litigation context. And to see all the other things you do is really impressive. And so, I don't think there's anyone here that thinks that this is, we're glad you're here to talk to us, but a no-brainer. No hair, no-brainer. So
thank
does
you.
someone have a motion?
I can make a motion. Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 2 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 3?
Non-restricted number 3 are the applications of Robert Woods for finding of suitability and/or licensure as a key executive as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Yes, thank you very much. PDS Gaming is adverse in matters involving a client of Lewis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, in which I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Robert Woods, PDS Gaming.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you? Just a brief summary on my background. I've spent most of my career in equipment finance and middle market finance. I became familiar with PDS probably 15 or 18 years ago when we became a significant financial partner of PDS and providing financing for their operations and their activities. About 2017, I was asked to come onto the board of managers of PDS, which is effectively their board of directors. I was found suitable at that point. So I have had a finding of suitability. And then around mid-year 2020, middle of the pandemic, when all our customers were closed and all our revenues were approaching zero, the board asked me to step in and take over CEO. So I've been acting CEO since that time, pending final approval of the board, which is I'm here for today.
Well, thank you for being here today. I'm going to, and I appreciate those comments and introduction. I'm going to open it up for questions, but before I do, in the materials I have, it said that you are preparing to relocate to Savannah. Is that
Yeah, I'm in the process of that. Yes.
how soon?
Probably 6 to 9 months.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations on that. That sounds
Thank
kind of exciting and different. I think you had maybe told our investigation or the agent how many times you're in Las Vegas. Could you elaborate on that and kind of your
Sure. Yeah.
actual physical presence in the state?
Yeah. About half our operations are centered in Las Vegas, and about half are centered in Oklahoma. So I'm typically in Las Vegas 1 week a month, and in Oklahoma 1 week a month, and then 2 weeks a month. I'm presently in New York. I'm, as you mentioned, to Savannah shortly.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues. I'll start with you, Commissioner Solisreni.
Thank you. I didn't have any questions. I thought it was, the materials were clear and the elaboration that was given at the Game Control meeting cleared up any questions I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
Squeaky clean, no areas of concern, and thank you for coming to see us. It's nice to see you in person.
Thanks. Nice to see you.
Commissioner Krolicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You actually addressed the questions I had about how often Mr. Woods would be in Las Vegas. He is a busy man and I'm sure a favorite flyer for one of the airlines. Looks like you're going to change to Delta if you're not already there. But Mr. Woods, I have no concerns about the application for your suitability as a key executive. Thank you.
How long have you been doing the 1 week in Las Vegas?
Well, I mean, during the pandemic, travel was
Right.
tough, but since things started opening up, 2021, mostly mid 2021, 22, I've been trying to come out at least a week a month.
So a lot of points, a lot of
Yeah,
frequent
but-
flyer
but-
miles.
A lot of miles. I do
lot
have a
of-
lot of frequent flyer miles. But during the pandemic, we also developed protocols, and people got used to working remotely, and so we just found that the secret is over communication, right? You over communicate. Being in different cities is not that hard.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Cohen, do you have anything?
Just that I share the sentiments of my fellow commissioners, your application was spotless.
So at this time, if there are no additional comments or questions, it would appear that this is ripe for a motion.
Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 3 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here today. We really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for consideration of this.
Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 4?
Non-restricted number 4 is the application of Joseph Asher for licensure as a key executive at IGT. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record again, Greg Giordano, the law firm McDonald Toronto, appearing on with the applicant to my right, Joseph Asher. Application for licensure as a key executive of IGT with respect to president of Play Sports. I know you're very familiar with Mr. Asher. I first met Joe back when I was working with my colleague and former mentor, Bob Fess, when they were getting licensed in his applications with Cantor Fitzgerald. So I back a long way to Joe, but I know he gave a brief description of his background stuff. Board meeting, or if you want to start there, just focus on particular aspects of his recent career. We're happy to answer any questions you might have and provide any information you'd like concerning his background and his application before you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam
Morning.
Chair, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, members of the board, Joe Asher, appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for having me. I did want to, if I could, answer Commissioner Brown's question from earlier, which is why isn't IGT a consumer-facing brand? Just historically, it's been a B2B B2B supplier supplying casinos with technology in various aspects of their business. It's not been a consumer-facing brand. So that continues to be the approach to business. Good idea to be in competition with customers. So sort of stayed in the B2B space.
Thank you so much for answering that. I appreciate it.
Would you like me to give you any background, or how would you
Sure,
like me to
if you
proceed?
don't mind.
Sure. So I grew up in Delaware. My dad was a gambler, and so I was sort of around gambling from a very early age. Started working at racetracks, in Delaware and Massachusetts for a bit when I was a teenager. Somehow got through school and decided to go to law school. Graduated, then clerked for a judge and practiced law for a number of years. And then decided I wanted to get back into the gaming business in some capacity, which ultimately led to me moving out here to Las Vegas back in 2006. And then 2007 started working on what became Brandywine Bookmaking, which was a B2C consumer-facing brand in the sports betting space, operated throughout Nevada. Started Elko, had operations throughout Nevada. Sold that business to William Hill in 2012 when William Hill, which at the time was a pretty well-known British company, traded on London Stock Exchange, decided to the U.S. market. So sold Brandywine to William Hill, then wound up staying on to run the William Hill U.S. business, and ran that business until it was sold to Caesars Entertainment in 2021. Took a little bit of time off and then joined IGT fall of 2021.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions, starting here in Las Vegas with Commissioner Brown.
Thank you so much. Your background is fascinating to me. What did you do as a teenager when you worked at the racetrack?
Did a number of things. Commissioner Brown started working in the publicity department, worked in the racing office, and started announcing horse races as well when I was a teenager, and continued to announce for a number of years. Started to do it again, I think back in 2015. I came out of retirement up at the Elko County Fair. So now I call a race or two every Labor Day weekend up in Elko.
Oh, that's exciting.
It was
not a traditional way to grow up by any stretch, but
Makes you well-rounded. Makes you well-rounded.
it-
Was your dad disappointed when you went to law school because he want you to do something in gaming?
no, no, I think you know, my dad was he died a long time ago, but he was alive through law school. I think he was happy, I mean, in a way, to sort of at that time get away from from the gambling business. He had the gambling business wasn't good for him. He was a also gambler, and wound up losing his business because of gambling. And so he was always a little nervous that something bad was going to happen with me being involved in working around gambling. Um, um, so I think he was pretty happy the path to law school.
No, you've done well for yourself. You should be proud. I was interested in your work with the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. I find that fascinating as well. I watched the presentation, of course, in front of the board, but if you could just talk just briefly about it and what's transpired since and what you've been doing.
Well, thank you. Still relatively new in the position.
And congratulations, of course.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so I'm still relatively new in the position and really, getting up to speed and drinking from a fire hose kind of way, trying to learn as much as I can about the organization. There's a lot of complexity to it. It was created by Congress in 1968 as essentially a nonpartisan think tank, as the official memorial to President Wilson. And there were various institutes within the Wilson Center, principally focused on global affairs, Middle East Institute, China, Russia, Africa, Latin America, and so forth. But there's one in competitiveness, which touches on business, of course, and Arctic. And so the board is sort of half, essentially half statutory appointees and half presidential appointees. And I'm really looking to try to be as impactful as possible, having been given the opportunity and to the financing is quite complicated because there's a government appropriation as well as endowment and private funding as well, and that leads to all kinds of operational challenges and complexities within the organization that I'm to be helpful around. Also, I'd like to see sort of more involvement outside the DC, New York bubble. And I grew up in the Northeast, so I know that environment. But at one point in time, Wilson Center was having events at UNLV Law School with the Saltman Center. Saltman had started at the UNLV, and I think that kind of stopped COVID. But perhaps there's opportunities to resurrect that sort of thing. My first trip with the Wilson Center is upcoming to Israel next month, so I'm looking forward to that. And really, just like I said, trying to figure out the most efficient, effective way to help President CEO, Ambassador Mark Green, and the rest of the organization. The more I learn, the more appreciative I am of the opportunity.
I'm sure you'll do wonderful things there, and thank you for being thoughtful about Boyd School of Law. I went there charter class, and I'm happy that you'll be including us, hopefully, in the mix of things, because it sounds like an excellent think tank. So I wish you luck, and I know you'll do excellent work there.
Thank you.
I have no areas of concern. Thank you.
So I just have just a curiosity question. In your investigation materials, that I don't, and it could be in here and I just missed it, but the law clerk, which I honed right in on, who was it? State court, federal court?
It was a wonderful Delaware Supreme Court justice named Joseph T. Walsh. He was a longtime judge, trial courts in Delaware, and the Supreme Court is the court of last resort in Delaware. And it was a wonderful experience.
I always tell new lawyers or law students, and of course I'm a little biased in that regard, but I always tell them what a great experience it is, and how much you learn. It's like the mass unit of law, especially state court. It can be, at least in our jurisdiction. So I was just interested. I'm glad to hear that you had a great experience. Kind of,
The experience was not just learning about the law and the judiciary, but also a mentoring relationship and how to conduct myself in many ways. I kind of picked bits and pieces from various people over the years, and clearly Justice Walsh was one of them.
Well, that's great to hear. Well, do we have any additional questions or comments? I'll ask Commissioner Krolicki before I. Commissioner
Thank you, Madam
Krolicki, do you have
Chair.
anything?
I too just wish to welcome Mr. Asher. I think the word iconic was used in the Gaming Control Board meeting, but what a wonderful resume. There should be a screenplay or something behind your story. I think I may have met you many, many years ago because you were the voice of horse racing in Elko at the county fair. And Barbara and George Vukanovich were dear friends and would always travel out there for her purposes and enjoy the fair. I think they regularly sponsored horses out there as well, especially on the Labor Day weekend. But thank you for the joy that you brought to so many during those moments. One of the other things that you discussed, and I thought it was just charming, and just perhaps for the record, if you wanted to talk a little bit about your Brandywine company and how it came to be, the 1777, September 11th story. You pulled it full circle, and it was charming. And if you can do the Reader's Digest version, I think that's appropriate. But other than that, again, it's a pleasure to meet you. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments and various things. Certainly, the Wilson Center is close to my heart. But thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind comments. I appreciate it very much. I really do like going up to the Elko fair. I happen to like Elko quite a bit. My son, we have two girls and a boy, and my son and I go up every year for the fair. The girls used to go, but they don't want to go anymore. But it's kind of been the boys' weekend up in Elko. I'm glad you found the story about the Battle of the Brandywine charming. I told my oldest daughter about it. She said it was kind of cringe that I would bring it up. So, but I'm going to tell her what you said. Maybe try to find the YouTube.
I'll call her.
Video. Brandywine's a fairly well-known name in the northern Delaware, southeastern Pennsylvania area, stemming from the Brandywine River, which runs through the area, which, as you referenced, was one of the site of one of the biggest Revolutionary War battles back on September 11th, 1777, which did not go well for General Washington and his troops, and wound up retreating to Chester and back to Philadelphia. But sort of all wound up well, I guess, at the end of the day, I suppose. But when the Brandywine race was a very formative part in my life, going there from my earliest memories with Dad to watch and bet the races, and ultimately getting a job there, hired by a guy named Mark Bachrod when I was 16. I had kind of a tough childhood, and a little bit of stability came from my time working at Brandywine, and some wonderful lifelong friends. So anyway, fast forward to 2007 when I was, starting the sports betting company, and I decided to resurrect the Brandywine name, because when you start a company, you get to pick a name, and it's always been one that's special. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you for your appearance today. I know that I think we are probably ready for a motion at this point.
I'd be happy to make the motion. Nice to see you again, Mr. Asher. I would move for approval of non-restricted application. Number 4 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended for approval by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here today and speaking with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Right, Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 5.
Non-restricted number 5 is the application of Julie Cameron Doe for finding of suitability as an officer at Wynn Resorts Limited. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Sonia Vermees, a shareholder with the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. I'm honored to appear with the applicant this morning, Julie Cameron Doe. She's the Chief Financial Officer for Wynn Resorts Limited. As you can see in your materials, she has very impressive credentials, and she's a seasoned applicant, having applied in over 200 jurisdictions with her former position. She was also recently licensed here in Nevada and has appeared before both the board and the commission. With that, I will let her come and introduce herself to you, and feel free to ask her any questions.
Thank you. Good morning,
morning.
Chair Togliatti, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. As Sonia announced, Julie Cameron Doe, CFO of Wynn Resorts Limited now. I was in this room just over 4 years ago, I think, in my role as CFO of Aristocrat, Australian company. I've been living in Vegas now for just over 5 years, and very happy to be here. I just hit my 1-year anniversary at Wynn this week.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here today. It's always great to see, kind of a woman rising up into a CFO position of this magnitude is very impressive, and your career is very impressive. At this time, I would like to open up for my colleagues' questions or comments. I'll start up north with Commissioner Krolicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, it's a stellar application. I'm still new at this, but I don't know that I will ever meet anyone who has approval in 290 different jurisdictions. Your time with Aristocrat really set that up for you. But I have no concerns. I am fully supportive and proud to see Ms. Cameron Doe succeed as she has and being found suitable with Wynn Resorts.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
I also didn't have any concerns at all with your background. It's incredibly clean. I was curious about your move from Australia. How have you found the change?
It was a tough move. I mean, I'm English and I moved to Australia because I wanted to enjoy life in Australia. It's a beautiful country. I lived by the ocean, and that's where I raised my child the first 9 years. So it was amazing, but ambition got the better of me. And when the opportunity to take the CFO role at Aristocrat came up, I decided the role was going to be based here. And so I made the move, and I haven't regretted it. It's been a wonderful move. It was hard. I missed the ocean to start with. It took a while to get used to the desert. But it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a child. And so, yeah, very happy to be here.
Great. Well, there's a lot of beauty in the desert as well, so I'm glad you're enjoying it. And the ocean is hard to give up. But I didn't have any questions with your background. Like I said, it's very clean. I like seeing also women come up and be successful. So I'm happy to support your application.
Just curious, how does your son like it?
Up and down.
Adjusting.
Adjusting still 5 years in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Misses the ocean too. But yeah, sees some good too.
Okay. Commissioner Brown or Cohen, do you have any questions or comments?
An extremely clean application. I have no questions or concerns regarding this application item.
The word impressive is really all I can say. You are so impressive. And I don't know if you hold the record, 290 jurisdictions. I'm pretty sure you do. But, you've held senior finance roles with KPMG, Orbitz, Walt Disney. I mean, you're a pretty big deal, and you're so humble, and it's just such a pleasure to see you rise up. And I would just want to congratulate you. And I think we might have met at the International Women's Forum lunch last year.
That's right.
We were both guests, and I'm now a member of that organization. But you were such a delight, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm very proud to vote in favor of your application. I have absolutely no areas of concern, obviously.
Thank you.
So at this time, it would appear a motion is in order. Who would like to make that motion? Commissioner Brown? Commissioners?
Okay, thank you so much. I move for approval, Chair, of the non-restricted item number 5 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. Thank you. It's nice to meet you. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 6?
Non-restricted number 6 is the application of Edith Lavoy for licensure as a key executive at Nevada Property One LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Nevada Property One is an intellectual property client of Louis Roca, the firm where I am a partner, in which I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, my name is Chandler Pohl. I'm legal counsel with MGM Resorts International. With me today is Edith Lavoy, Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. Today is her first appearance in front of this commission. She's a great candidate, and she's going to provide a brief introduction of herself, and afterwards we can field questions, if any.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Madam Secretary, and Commissioners. Thank you for having me here this morning, and I also want to take a moment to thank and acknowledge Agent Lopez for processing my application. So I'll start with a little background on just kind of my parents. My parents immigrated from Mexico here to Las Vegas in the early 70s, and later decided to move back briefly to Mexico, where I was born. We moved back, and I now consider myself a native of Las Vegas since I've been here since I was 6 months old. So I'm a UNLV graduate, and my finance career in the hospitality industry started 22 years ago with MGM Resorts until 2016, when I moved to the Cosmopolitan under Blackstone's ownership, and then now still at the Cosmopolitan as CFO now with back with MGM Resorts. It's been an amazing experience to work for two companies that have supported and have allowed me to grow. So, and again, thank you for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, before I open it up for questions of my colleagues, I would echo what I said earlier to the previous applicant. It's great to see, and especially your rise, your rise through, the positions is very impressive throughout your career, and it's great to see that. And so I congratulate you for that, and I open it up for any comments or questions. Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your position. I especially like seeing that you moved up with the same company.
Yes.
Sometimes that can be tough, but you did it. You started out as a revenue auditor.
Yes.
Do you remember what you were? Oh, no, it said senior. Do you remember what you were auditing when you first started?
When I first started at Treasure Island with MGM Resorts, I was a revenue auditor. It was for non-gaming. So I was an hourly employee auditing the day-to-day revenue.
And did you start there after college, timing wise? No?
It was my last semester. Yeah, last semester of college.
Oh, great. I did have just a question out of curiosity. It doesn't matter either way, but it listed your citizenship as United States, but there was also an alien registration number.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm a U.S. citizen. So
Okay.
yes, I'm not sure. We'll go back and look at it, but yes, I am a U.S. citizen.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious just to see both. It seemed odd. I thought perhaps maybe you were recently not naturalized, but
No, I was naturalized when I turned 18. When I turned an adult, I was naturalized as a U.S. citizen.
okay. Well, great. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't have any concerns with your background. Was pretty straightforward application. And again, your rise is impressive, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen.
More of an observation. I think you may be the first applicant to be a CFO of a property, along with your husband and me as a CFO at a competing property.
Yes, that is correct. Peter Lavoy at Resorts World is my husband.
Yeah, he's appeared before us. I just thought that was a nice little touch for this application. I have no issues with your application whatsoever.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
I call that a power couple. There's a phrase for that.
That's what people say. We don't see it that way.
I do.
But
I do.
yes.
And I have to tell you, I am very impressed with your background, your trajectory. You started at 16 years old at the Excalibur in the game area.
Yes, I've I've always worked. I worked before I was 16 at an indoor swap meet, but in the hospitality industry, I did start at 16 at Excalibur down in the gaming area, and worked through high school. And then in college, I came back and worked at the Tropicana as a bus person. And then, yeah.
I mean, that just shows you, I mean, you went to community college, got your associate's degree, and you've just worked hard. And I think there's no substitute for hard work and tenacity and determination. And I'm really proud of you. I believe this is your first time being licensed.
Yes.
Congratulations. Before we vote, I have a feeling it's going to go your way today because all of your hard work is going to pay off. But very proud of you and very impressed with keeping your eye on the prize and just moving forward. And I'm sure there will be more wonderful things to come from you.
Thank you so much.
Very proud of you. I have absolutely no areas of concern.
Anything else, Commissioner Krolicki?
Yep. Yes, if I may, Ms. Lavoy, thank you so much for being in front of us. It's a term that means different things to many people, but you in my use of the term, the American dream, you've lived it. Coming from Mexico when you were 6 months old, but just a stellar record. I was going to make the correction, but Commissioner Brown beat me to it, that your first job wasn't as a revenue auditor. It was a bus person and other positions, Excalibur, and I think treasurer for the Tropicana when you were a teenager. So you've cut your teeth on the industry. You continue. This morning, we've just had a stream of strong applicants from the entire industry, and you certainly add to that. One of the asides I'd like to make, I'm not sure how often you get to visit Michoacan, but one of the great joys in my life on several of occasions with friends from Morelia, I think it's the government seat of Michoacan, is to go visit the monarch butterfly preserve. It's one of the more spectacular things that nature does. You have millions of monarchs that migrate, up through North America, but back down and originates in Michoacan, and it's just a spectacular sight. So all good thoughts about where your home state is. But again, this is a stellar application, incredibly impressive, and I have no reservation to vote affirmatively.
Thank you. I appreciate all the kind
Have you seen the
comments.
monarch butterflies? Have you done that?
So unfortunately, no. My parents and the families from Jalisco, which is the neighboring state. So when we did go back to visit family, we would typically go to Jalisco. So, but I have heard of the monarch butterflies, and I have not had the opportunity to see them
Never say never.
yet.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate you being here today. At this time, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? Excuse me. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here today. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 7?
Non-restricted number 7 are the applications of Winners Gaming, Inc. for a disposition of securities as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary, members and staff of the board. Dan Reeser with the law firm of Fenimore, appearing on behalf of the applicants as indicated by Madam Secretary. Present with me and at the podium is Vice President and Director Robert Cashel Jr. Our appreciation for your waiver of appearance for Mr. Johnson and Mr. King pursuant to Regulation 2040. We'd like to again thank Chief Hoffman, Deputy Chief Rippey, Supervisor Doyle, and Special Agent Schweitzer for their assistance on very efficiently bringing the application to agenda in a very short period of time. I'll just briefly, we're going to basically rest on the record, but I'll just briefly hit a couple of high points. Winners Gaming operates 360 slot machines at 54 locations in northern Nevada. Its operations serve locations in Reno, Sparks, Carson City, Mendon, Winnemucca, Battle Mountain, and Fernley. And its restricted operations are at convenience stores and automotive service stations, restaurants, and taverns. Before you are two transfer of interest applications. that will essentially move about 32.46, if I remember, percent of the company back to the company through a redemption, essentially to the retirements of Mr. King, who was one of the founders of the company, and Mr. Johnson. We're taking out 265,000 shares, and the shares are being acquired with significant cash payments at closing, and balances to be handled through installment payments. After the transaction is concluded, there'll be 3 shareholders: Mr. Shell, Art Hinckley, and his mother, Crystal Hinckley, and that Mr. Gashel and Mr. Hinckley will be the board of directors and the officers of the company. So that's essentially where we're at, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to go to the north first and ask if Commissioner Krolicki has any questions or comments.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Reeser, thank you, and welcome, Mr. Gashel. I already mentioned one of my favorite elected officials in Nevada history, Barbara Vikanovich, a while ago, who I first met in the 1980s. I think the only individual I've known just as long, from public service was your father, Bob Gashel. Just for the record, and for folks who may not be familiar, iconic, larger than life individual. You and I have had the occasion to meet, but your father's desperately missed, but he certainly had opinions about how to be lieutenant governor, and stories about, being a mayor of a big city. He was, as much as I've pursued some adventures in the International Olympic Committee world, your father actually pioneered a bid from Reno many, many years ago that lost to Salt Lake. But your father was a mentor and just one of the great figures in the state, and we desperately miss him. But you come from great stock. The only questions I really have, and you did talk about it during the Gaming Commission, was how you made the valuation for the securities using EBITDA. But if you could just, for the record, discuss, how that transaction was constructed. Thank you, Mr. Reeser.
Yes, Commissioner Krolicki. The company's method of valuation in this instance was not to hire a business appraiser, but was to perform an analysis similar to the one that they had done themselves when they had received an offer to purchase the company. And essentially what they did was calculate a 4-year average EBITDA. And these numbers I know are in your materials. We do have handouts if people want to get into that level. They applied to that a multiple's been disclosed to you, which was the multiple that they offered to sell the company at. The number generated by that was then multiplied by the 32.46% of the company that was being retired to come up with a valuation of the retired stock. And then that amount was divided between the 2 shareholders roughly by the amount of their shares of that 32.46. I think it's about 12 and some odd percent for Mr. Johnson, 28% for Mr. King. And that's essentially how they did that. As we explained to Agent Schweitzer, that gets you to a back end share value, so you can calculate the share value, but that's not how we proceeded. There was no minority discount either for these 2 people who had been very material to the company's growth.
Mr. Reeser, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. But again, it's very nice to see you, Mr. Gashel. Welcome, and you are your father's son. You were certainly a large figure in this space and gaming, and all of your accomplishments over the years. I'm fully supportive of the application.
My only comment, Commissioner Krolicki, is no fair picking on, no fair making applicants tear up.
My apologies.
Thank you.
No, that I wasn't trying to debate. I just wanted to note Mr. Gashel's response.
So, Commissioner Solis Rainey, do you have anything?
I didn't have any questions or concerns about the application. Mr. Reeser, as always, your presentation always answers 99.9 of my questions, if not all of them, and I appreciate that. I think the fact that the valuation was arrived internally says a lot about your company and your relationship with your partners. So I wanted to thank you for that. I don't have any questions substantively about the application. Thank you.
If I may see the handout that you prepared about the valuation analysis.
Certainly.
I know you have it prepared. I'd just like to take a
Do
quick
other
look.
commissioners want a copy? Do other commissioners want a copy or?
Sure, if you have it.
Did I give you enough?
We'll share. If not, don't worry. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, you still have a copy? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Krolicki, we'll get this emailed to you. Thank you. I mean, it's basically what you've stated.
Very concise. I have no questions about it. Just briefly, if I may, Chair. I understood that the Heritage Bank loan carries a 7% interest rate, but then I thought structurally there were 2 additional promissory notes at a 5-year term. What is that correct?
Yes,
And what are the interest rates on those 2 separate notes?
the same.
Okay, thank you for symmetry.
Yeah.
No areas of concern. Thank you
Ma-
so much for taking the time to come before us
Yeah.
today. I have absolutely no questions for you. You always do
Well, I was
such an
just going to
Go
amplify
ahead.
the cost of money at time of the negotiations is building in what our expectations are.
Thank you. Always a great presentation from you. I very rarely have questions after you make a presentation. Thank you both. No areas of concern. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no additional questions or comments, I think this matter is ripe for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for,
if
go ahead. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Mr.
if
Krolicki.
you would indulge me, this would be a great honor to do it for Mr. Cashel. I would move to approve non-restricted item number 7 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended for approval by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration and my temporary falling apart.
No, that's
I
all
think it's
good.
very sweet.
Thank you. All right. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 8. Non-restricted number 8.
Non-restricted number 8 is the application of Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc., doing business as Points Casino 130 for a non-restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Togliatti.
Excuse me, I
we have
have
a
a disclosure, if I may.
I apologize.
Pardon the interruption.
I apologize.
Nevada Restaurant Services doing business as Dottie's is adverse in an open litigation matter of a client of Louis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, and I have no personal involvement in that matter. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Togliatti, commissioners, members of the board, Madam Secretary. My name is Cannon Smith, and I'm General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. I'm before you today on non-restricted item number 8, which is NRSI's application for a non-restricted gaming license at Points Casino number 130 in Sparks, Nevada. The current licensee at Points Casino number 130 is Northern Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc., which is wholly owned by the applicant NRSI. This application for a new license, therefore, is in practice an application to transfer the license from a wholly owned subsidiary to its parent company. As such, none of the operation at the location will not change whatsoever. No change in employees or management. the company would like to thank Special Agent Heather Lambert for her work on this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments. First in Las Vegas.
I have just a brief question. What's driving the change in the license?
Just to simplify the corporate structure and get rid of the in an RSI.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last statement.
To get rid of the subsidiary, to simplify the corporate structure and get rid of in an RSI, the Northern Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc.
Thank you.
Does NRSI hold other licenses?
NRSI?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you going through this process for the other ones as well?
Oh, no, sorry. In an RSI does not. This is the only one that Northern
Okay.
Nevada Restaurant Services holds, and NRSI holds the rest of them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments in Las Vegas before I?
It's pretty straightforward. It's the same management, same employees, just trying to simplify the structure of the organization.
Correct.
Commissioner Krolicki, anything?
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no additional questions or comments, does someone have a motion they wish to make?
Sure, I'll move for approval, Chair, of non-restricted item number 8, as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very
There are none
much.
opposed. Thank you. How's the court reporter doing? You're good? Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 9?
Non-restricted number 9 is the application of MGM Resorts Interactive LLC for a 13th waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Thank you. MGM Resorts International and its affiliates, including MGM Resorts Interactive, are intellectual property clients of Louis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, in which I am not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record. I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Morning.
Morning. It's nice to be back. Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, for the record, my name is Chandler Pohl, Legal Counsel with MGM Resorts International. With me today is Sean McGinnis, outside counsel for MGM Resorts International, and Sean will supplement my presentation with a bit of historical context. For the agenda item that we're here for today, it's the a request for approval for an additional waiver, and as you can see in the agenda, it's the 13th. Understanding the board's concern, that's why Sean will present a small presentation on the historical context as to poker, especially given this request for MGM Resorts International.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, for the record, Sean McGinnis with Butler Snow on behalf of MGM Resorts International. Yes, as Chandler mentioned, I'm sort of here. I guess I've somehow inadvertently become an old timer in a way, because I was practicing before the board and commission back in the days when this came up, and I thought that, after the board hearing and sort of getting ready for this hearing, we thought it might be appropriate to provide a context as to the interactive licenses, because there's this one, there's the other one on the agenda, there's also one that you approved by consent last November as well, where where these things are, the activation of the license under Reg 4080 is extended out for a year period. But I want to make sure, I think it's important to note that this really isn't an approval that was envisioned to be like an online poker in Nevada only originally. So if you go back in time to when this was envisioned in 2013, this all had its roots in a act that was proposed for Congress that never became law, that was called the Internet Poker Freedom Act of 2013. And under the Internet Poker Freedom Act of 2013, the National Indian Gaming Commission was going to approve tribes to offer online poker throughout the United States if the tribes opted in. At that time, Harry Reid was Senate Majority Leader, and he and the Nevada delegation and also his compatriots in New Jersey got involved, and they amended that statute to basically also allow for a regulatory agency in a commercial jurisdiction that had licensed gaming, had a history of licensing gaming for 30 plus years, which essentially at that time in 2013 was only Nevada and New Jersey. And around the same time, once that was in place, the Nevada legislature amended the Nevada Gaming Control Board, the Nevada Gaming Control Act, to throw in this interactive license. So it was always in this, it was originally envisioned in the context of this nationwide opportunity that could move forward. And part of that also is in play with the activation fees. You know, to activate one of these licenses is $500,000 to activate the license. You have 6 figures to renew it each year. So it clearly is, you know, a significant thing for a company to decide whether to activate or not. And then, of course, the federal statute never came to be. So then you ended up with a whole host of Nevada licensees. There were many others before who also had interactive licenses. You know, at the day you had Boyd, Stations, Monarch, South Point, Treasure Island. You had ASEP, the folks that had the Stratosphere before that got, you know, before Blake Sartini and Golden Game took over the Stratosphere. They all had these licenses. And so what happened is initially the 4080 waivers were going like they typically do for 6-month periods of time. And after a couple of the 6-month periods of time, the board looked at it and said, well, you know, significantly, we're seeing what the market may be. Governor Sandoval was being a leader, encouraging the board to come up with shared pool liquidity agreements. And so they reached out to Delaware, was the first to be able to share player liquidity with Delaware. And then since that time, New Jersey's come on board and Michigan just came on board. Essentially a way to sort of make lemonade out of lemons, because it wasn't exactly what people felt that it was going to be. So they eventually decided the board commission decided it would be appropriate to make these 1-year aspects, 1-year extensions. Though I will note at the time when they were discussing that, there was discussion about potentially having them be 2 or maybe even 3 years, while letting the market sort of figure out how to adjust, understanding that the companies went and got these licenses and you're looking to see how everything was emerging. Since the player liquidity, of course, you have Pass-Befell, which also a lot of sports betting's online. So that's very similar to what you would see in an online poker setting. Then, of course, we had COVID. And so COVID was further a disruptor in moving things forward. But I just kind of felt after the hearing and some of the discussions that it might be helpful to just sort of put on the record as to where things have been, because there are some exciting things happening with player liquidity. There's discussions with other states about coming on board, and there are other things happening in the mix. But I just think you know, there's been so many different commissioners and board members since this originally was happening in 2013. I thought it would be good to put on the record.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Excuse me. Does anyone have any additional questions or comments based on the presentation, the board, the materials we have, the investigation, and the comments today?
Madam Chair,
I did.
if
Yes,
I may, from
Commissioner
the
Krolicki.
north. Thank you for that extra context. Certainly, this was an extended conversation in the Gaming Control Board meeting. You know, we get it, but I think the bottom line is it's been, you know, to sustain an application for a decade, things do change. So while I have no problem approving this today, just tackling this regulation and how we deal with it, it just needs to be fresh. I mean, MGM is completely familiar, but we need to be consistent and apply this rule fairly. We have an additional item, after you present, but I just think if we can just tackle this and have some reasonable outcome on how we deal with it, so these applications are fresher than a decade old, if you will, when they come in for continuation or waiver. But I have no issue with the application itself, but just the regulation. If we can visit that, I know Chair Hendrick is looking hard at it, along with his colleagues. But that's my only comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You're in Las Vegas. Commissioner Brown and Cohen have anything? All right. There being no additional comments or questions. I believe based upon the record we have and the board meeting and the materials, it's ripe for a motion.
I move for approval of non-restricted agenda item number 9 is read into the record by Madam Secretary as recommended for approval by the Nevada Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, and there are none opposed. Thank you very much for being here and for the elaboration for us on the record.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'd like to thank Agent Park, who was the agent assigned to this matter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 10?
Non-restricted number 10 is the application of Z4 Poker LLC business as Z4 for a 13th waiver of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 4.080 as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a recusal on this item.
Thank you. My law firm, Lewis Roca, and my esteemed colleague, Mr. Light, is representing the applicant, and I must therefore recuse myself from voting on this matter. Thank you and good luck.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Togliatti, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, my name is Glenn Light with the law firm Lewis Roca, and I am appearing on behalf of the applicant Z4 Poker. I'm joined at the podium by Eric Colvin, who is a founder and a CTO of the company. By way of background, Z4 Poker is a family operation. The company was founded by Eric and David Colvin, and the Colvins also founded together Gaming Arts, which is a leading provider of electronic gaming machines, bingo, and Keno. So Z4 Poker is licensed as an interactive gaming service provider in the state. However, we do request an additional waiver of Reg 4080 in connection with activating its interactive manufacturer and distributor licenses. We do acknowledge and understand the concerns that were raised at the board hearing about timeliness. And at the board hearing, Mr. Colvin did provide an update on the company's substantial and ongoing efforts towards activating these licenses. So we'll be happy to recap that for you or go straight to questions.
How about the short version?
Straight to questions.
Sure. I'll start with Commissioner Krolicki. Do you have any comments or questions on this item?
You know, I don't, and I appreciate Mr. Colvin's presentation to the Gaming Control Board. You know, it was extensive. You gave a marvelous history. I think you've already put $30 million into this venture. So you were certainly putting significant skin and elbow grease into this application, you know, for waiver. And I appreciate your history in the North as well. I think you and your family, I first met you when you were doing the Sienna hotel up in Reno. But I have no questions. I'm perfectly comfortable moving forward with the application. But with my comments from the previous matter, just this whole section for 4.080 waivers to be visited. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody in Las Vegas? Commissioner Solis-Rainey? Commissioner Cohen? All right. I don't have any additional questions or comments. I think the record is complete before the board, and I think this is ripe for a motion at this time.
Madam Chair,
I'll make a motion on non-restricted item number 10. Move for approval as read. The item was read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended for approval by the Gaming Control Board.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And there are none opposed. The record should reflect Commissioner Brown did not participate in the discussion or the vote on this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, oh, I guess we need, sorry, I always forget that part.
May we take a 5-minute break?
Sure. Actually, because of the nature of the ladies' restroom, maybe a little bit longer than that. Well, we were going to take a break, but for all of us to get over there and get back, 10 minutes.
10 minutes
you.
it is. Thank you.
Sure. Balicki, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we're all here ready to begin. At this time, reconvening after the comfort break, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 11?
Non-restricted number 11 is the application of Joseph Simon for finding of suitability as an officer and for licensure as a key executive as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Thank you. Stadium is adverse in a transactional matter involving a client of Lewis Roca, the firm where I am a partner in which I'm overseeing the project handled by the transactional department. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Oakberg. I'm outside Nevada Gaming Counsel to the company. Here with me today is the applicant, Joe Simon, who is the Chief Information and Technology Officer. As you will recall, we were before you with Entain in February, and his item was continued to a later agenda. So we are now before you for his individual application. And as he is a first-time applicant, I would like to ask him to provide a brief overview of his background, as well as a summary of job duties and responsibilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, and Madam Secretary. My name is Joe Simon. I was appointed to my current position with Stadium effective January of 22 and to Entain effective July 4th, 2022. And I've been with the company since June of 21. I completed my bachelor's in science from Loyola in Chennai and my post-graduation from XLRI Jamshedpur in management. I spent a couple of years with an Indian conglomerate in the technology division working on automating back office function, then was recruited by a consulting firm to work in projects in the US and New Zealand, insurance and banking. And after 2 years, came back to the US to work with Reader's Digest and then joined Booz Allen in their technology practice. Worked initially in the financial services of Booz Allen and then moved on to the media sector. Over time, joined the client Viacom in their technology group. And then soon after the merger with CBS, was appointed as the CIO of the combined organization just a week before September 11th. Spent over 12 years at Viacom running various technology areas, IT, digital, broadcast, production, and the studios. Left there to run the digital transformation at Condé Nast. And after 4 enjoyable years, moved on to, sorry about that. Joined Encompass as their chief operating officer, helped them in their journey transform into a global organization. After which I spent a year at Vice Media before joining in. At Entain, I handled the central technology function, including customer-facing and enterprise-related functions. I'm responsible for both the ongoing software development and the operational activities around the platform. On a personal side, I'm also a trustee with the Connecticut chapter of GoPio, that's an Indian charitable organization that looks to promote and assist in Indian diaspora while providing assistance to the local communities maybe a part of. Till recently, I was also the president of our cricket club that provides opportunities for individuals to enjoy playing the game while assisting the growth of both women and juniors cricket in Connecticut. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir, for being here today. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am going to open up to my colleagues for any questions or comments related to your application. Commissioner Brown.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today with us. We appreciate the time and the presentation. Do you still play cricket?
Of course.
Okay. Who came up with the name Mad Dogs Cricket Club?
A bunch of old Brits.
I noticed that you and your wife have a charitable gift trust. How do you identify the charities that are the beneficiaries of your annual gift?
Mostly the people who we work with. I mean, I don't have any official responsibility, but 2 of them. One is the Women's Mentoring Network in Stamford, and the one is something called Future 5. Both of them looking to help. Well, Future 5 is looking to help students establish the 5-year plan, mostly from troubled backgrounds. The Women's Mentoring Network is a different, started by a lady who looks at helping women start the second chapter, mostly because of either divorce or something else. They've done an amazing job.
Well, thank you for the work that you do with that. I think it's important to give back.
Yep.
I have no areas of concern. The one question I had, we received the December 22 monthly status report. Is there an updated status report or materials that you can send to us when you have time?
We'd be happy to provide an update.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Cohen?
I have no issues with anything with you personally. I'm still troubled with the $17 million United Kingdom regulatory fine. And I know that's been resolved. And I've asked this before in other commission hearings, but have you taken the necessary safeguards that the issues presented in the United Kingdom matters, have not leaked into any other jurisdictions in which you are licensed?
Commissioner Cohen, I can answer that question. The company has advised me that they have worked for any operations that they have to make sure that their updated internal controls and systems and processes have gone into the different countries where they operate. And with any jurisdictions where they operate with a partner such as MGM or BetMGM, they have shared their guidance on best practices and their updates with that partner to make sure that those are funneled in those jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solis Rainey?
I didn't have any questions regarding your applications. Commissioner Brown asked the important question about Mad Dog that I was curious about. But I do appreciate you being here so we can meet you in person.
How's pickleball in Connecticut? Is that not a thing?
Very contentious of late. They converted some tennis courts to pickle.
Oh, I see. Yes,
That's going to be a vote.
it's very upsetting to tennis players.
Yes.
I totally understand that. Commissioner Krolicki, do you have anything? Comments or
Thank you,
questions?
Madam Chair. Commissioner Cohen touched on my area of concern. Certainly, we discussed this in February when Mr. Simon couldn't be with us. And thank you for being with us today. And someday you'll have to explain cricket to me because I lived in the UK and endured 5-day test matches that one of my roommates would tape and watch again. And I never quite understood that. I know it's special, but I haven't found that magic. But good on
I did
you.
offer.
So
I did offer
you have
lessons
a
to the
full
board as
table
well.
of cricket questions as opposed to the application. But no, you present very well. We've gone through the record. It's, I think, well established, and I'm very comfortable with Mr. Simon's application.
Yes, it's very clear that your background causes no concern at this point. And so I would ask if anyone has a motion.
I don't know if Member Krolicki heard, but Mr. Simon said that he does offer lessons. I think you might have missed that offer.
I didn't. If that's not an ethical conflict, I'll take him up on it.
All right. So do you have a motion?
Yes, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 11 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control.
Is there any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sir, thank you very much for being here. There are none opposed. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that leads us to restricted items held out for discussion. Madam Secretary, if you could read in restricted number 1.
Restricted number 1 are the applications of S&P Gaming, Inc. for transfers of securities as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Peter Lusich III and Diane Lusich for licensure as a shareholder as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning. Well, I guess, yeah, still good. It's still the morning. Good morning to both of you who are appearing via a video from Carson City. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
At this time, if you had any comments that you wish to make regarding this item, now is your opportunity to do so.
No, actually, we stand on the agent's report. It was actually quite accurate.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will ask my colleagues if they have any, I'll start with Commissioner Krolicki and ask if he has any questions or comments.
And welcome. We've had a chance to visit since they're in Carson City today. It's not quite clear to me about the restricted training class. Is that something that you will be taking or you don't? Because you're departing the business, yeah, it wasn't clear to me where you stand.
Well, it's not clear to us actually either, because the next date is a date that we're out of the country. And although we could take it electronically or through a Zoom class, we're not sure of the quality of the internet where we're going. So we were going to request that you postpone that until at least September or the next quarterly meeting.
I mean, that certainly makes sense to me, but I'm not the person to make that determination. It's a serious session and training, and you should be 100% engaged. Madam Chair, I'm not sure how to further address that, or Chair Hendrick or someone else would like to discuss it.
I would ask if the board or the chief knows when the next class thereafter would be. June or August?
I think it's offered quarterly. Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't have an exact date off the top of my head, but
Madam Chair, I believe the dates are June 13th, August 15th, and then October 17th as the 3 dates.
You said October 17th?
Yes.
Okay, so sir, which of those 3 dates are you asking to attend?
October 17th.
And Chief, do you see any issues with that as a precedent kind of situation?
no. See, just
Thank you. Okay, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Krolicki, are you done?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Brown, Cohen, or Solis Rainey, any additional questions or comments? All right. At this time, in light of the request of the applicant, I don't know if someone who chooses to make a motion would include that issue in their motion, but they are requesting to attend the October 17th, 2023 class instead, based upon personal, conflicts and commitments. Does someone have a motion?
Just briefly, it was my understanding that if you stay in business, then you would take the class, not just conflict issues. Am I misunderstanding what I viewed in front of the board?
Yes, that is correct. That if we stayed in the business we were at was one of the options, but then a date was set because the sales and the purchase of our property, which would be the final property we have in the state, would come first, and then we would not have a need for that. So it was a little confusing. There was one point even that I'm just not quite sure what the requirement is, but
Commissioner Brown, if I may,
yes.
It just wasn't a conflict issue solely in terms of scheduling. There were other externalities that were transpiring.
the condition was that they demonstrate successful completion of the compliance seminar within 90 days of today's meeting.
Yeah, that's the date I had, and so we're changing that now,
And
potentially.
I think the proposal is that we change that to give them additional time to extend that 90 days out, but it would still be conditioned, and you would be required to attend that seminar regardless of whether or not you've entered into a sales agreement or not, a sales and purchase agreement.
Meaning the recommendation of the board was
Unless-
not conditional.
Right.
No, I thought only if they don't sell it, they have to take the class.
It doesn't.
He's shaking his head, yes.
Oh, wait, hold on, just say, unless
Sure.
the commission approves the sale prior to that.
Precisely.
Right. So what we're saying is,
Condition on a condition.
yeah, what we're saying is that if the sale doesn't happen before, if someone makes a motion to allow your attendance on or before October 17th, then you would attend. And if it happens before the sale happens before October 17th, you would not be required to attend. That's what we're talking about.
But just to clarify, it's not just the sale occurring in their mind as a transaction. The commission has to approve the sale during that time is what the condition is.
Right, prior to October 17th.
So you understand what we're saying?
Yes, we do.
It's not the sale on paper, it's the approval of the sale. before October 17th, which is a big if. Yes, sometimes.
Correct.
So you might be going to the class. That's the point.
Very good chance.
Yes, a very good chance. But the good news is, you may have if someone makes the motion, an extension on that until October 17th. So, Commissioner Brown?
I just want to be sure, sir, that you are clear. It's not the sale closing, it's approval ultimately to the extent there is such approval by the Nevada Gaming Commission. Do you understand, sir, for the record, affirmatively?
Affirmative, we do understand.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so does someone have a motion to make?
Yes, I would move to approve restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary with the change of the condition proposed. The condition shall be that Peter Lusage III and Diane Lusage shall demonstrate successful completion of a regulatory compliance seminar by the October 17th, 2023 seminar, unless the commission approves the sale of SMP Gaming, Inc. prior to that October 17th, 2023 date.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion or comment on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you both very much for being here today and for making that commitment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you dug out?
All right, Madam Secretary, please read in restricted number 2.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Last Hand Gaming LLC to issue membership interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the application of Martin Lara for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. You also have the application by Martin Lara to pledge his membership interest in Last Hand Gaming LLC in conjunction with a promissory note. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for.
Good morning.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here with the applicant, Mr. Lara. We did give a affirmative presentation at the board meeting. We'd be happy to give that again if you would like, or we'd be here to answer any questions that you have.
Sure, why don't you?
Sure. So essentially, this application is a transfer of interest where there are currently 2 members that are 50-50 of the entity that owns and operates the business. If this application transfer of interest is approved today, that their 2 interests, the 50-50 members, would be diluted to make room for Mr. Lara, and then the 3 members would each be 33 1/3% interest of members. In addition to that, Mr. Lara is pledging his membership interest as security for the promissory note that is being carried, and that's essentially the application that's before you today.
Thank you. At this time, I would open it up to questions or comments of my colleagues, starting in Las Vegas. Anybody have any questions? There being none, how about in, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Just, could you maybe go through and remind me of your intended participation in the actual business?
I tend to participate with the monthly owners meeting that they hold, and also eventually I will be taking over some of the accounting duties for him, as my background is accounting, and just as the other partner, Alan Woody, he would like to subside some of those duties to me.
Okay. Our materials indicated that you were going to provide direct oversight to the bar's daily operation as manager, but all I remembered from the board meeting was that you
We do have a manager there, but I'll be assisting him with any duties that he needs. So he'll be reaching out to me if he needs anything for the bar.
Okay, it indicated you were going to be overseeing it as manager. So are you
No.
saying there's a different manager that you're going to be overseeing?
Yes, so I'll be working directly with the manager that's currently there.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that. Thank you so much.
So are you the manager's manager?
No, well, I think it's because I'm a member. I'm gonna become a member manager, so of the business. So
Just giving you a hard time. Any other questions or comments down here before I move to the north?
I just wanted to commend you for your commitment and continuing on with your education until you finally got your degrees. I think, not giving up and educating yourself, they're a very important trade. So good for you.
thank you.
Commissioner Krolicki?
No questions.
All right. Sir, thank you for your appearance today. It would appear, based upon all the information we have and the board meeting, this is ripe for a motion.
Your Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 2 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
All right, any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
And we also like to thank Agent Rivas for all her work on the application during that process.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 3?
Restricted number 3 is the application of M&S Investment LLC doing business as Mad Mike's Bar and Grill for a restricted gaming license, and the application of Michael Reiger for licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Why not advertise? At all times.
Absolutely.
Council.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here with the applicant, Mr. Reiger. This application essentially is he's been operating and took over the business in March of 2021 without any gaming. And now he desires to include gaming in his business. So we're asking for your approval for him to add gaming to an existing business. We'd be here to answer any questions that you have.
Well, thank you for being here, Mr. Reiger. I'm going to open it up for questions and comments of my colleagues, starting with Commissioner Solis-Rainey.
Hi, thank you for being here, Mr. Reiger. I wanted to talk a little bit about the lawsuit that you did not disclose in your personal history record.
Which lawsuit is that?
It was the lawsuit, you were named as a defendant by MV John Corp.
The former tenant.
He's actually going after the landlord himself, but they listed me on there because of at the time we had talked about signing up a lease, so he came after the landlord, basically him and I. So that's, but it's.
I think for timing purposes, I came into this application late. Mr. Reiger's previous counsel or representative passed away, so I came into it very late. But it's my understanding during the investigation process, it was a timing. His application was submitted and this lawsuit was initiated after the fact his application was submitted. I believe that's correct.
Yes.
And it actually was filed beforehand, but are you saying he wasn't served until after that?
Correct. I believe the timing of you being served was after you submit the draft. Is that
right?
Okay. Mr. Reiger, do you understand, and Mr. Donato as well, I mean, either one of you can answer. Is there a reason that he didn't supplement it once he became aware of the lawsuit?
I was not involved in that at that time. I think his prior representative, did you explain that to Serena?
Yes.
And so I believe he did explain that to Serena Choi. I'm not sure why that didn't happen.
Okay, but you do understand that even if something comes up after the fact, you have a duty to inform the agents, or
Right.
inform if an investigative agent hasn't been assigned, you have a duty to supplement your application.
Yes, I understand. It should be squashed any day. My lawyer, they have met, both lawyers have met, and the other lawyers said that there's nothing going on.
I'm less concerned with the substance of the lawsuit as I am with a non-disclosure.
Right.
So I want to make sure that you understand your obligation to disclose things that come up.
Right.
As a licensee or as an applicant, if something comes up or changes in your situation from what you've represented in your applications, you have an obligation to bring that to the board's attention.
Right.
And you did file counterclaims or a cross complaint. So, whether or not you should or shouldn't be in the litigation to me is irrelevant. Right. You're actively involved in this litigation, and it's something that should have been brought to the attention of the.
Okay. Yeah, I totally.
I didn't have any other questions. I mean, the rest of your application was relatively straightforward, but I did just want to make sure you understood that for future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Brown or Commissioner Cohen?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming before us today. I appreciate your time. Question, there was a date that's scheduled in connection with the litigation for September 13th, 2023. Do you know what's scheduled before the court? It seems like an odd date to be so far out. Is that a trial date?
I'm sure. I don't know.
Okay, it was in our materials and I didn't know there was a singular date that's associated with the litigation. I just was interested what that was.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Okay. And can you tell me why did you sign the lease on December 10th, 2020, before the former tenant was evicted on December 20th, 2020?
We signed the lease on first on it.
My materials reflect December 10th. And in any event, it was before the eviction of the tenant that you replaced, which was December 20th. Do you know why that occurred in that timeline? Why you didn't wait to sign the lease until after the eviction was completed?
No, I signed the lease. The landlord had asked me to sign that lease, and then he said that he had explained to the tenant that he was leaving and that he had to go. And so when I signed that lease, we didn't really take over the building till in March. So that's what happened there.
Okay. And is it your position that the property owner authorized you to change the locks?
Yes. Yes, that was
Okay.
on an email. I still have it on my
Okay.
phone.
And did the former tenant and you communicate about the changing of the locks at any time?
The changing of what? I'm
The
sorry.
locks. You changed the
Yeah,
locks?
yeah, no, he had told me he was out of town.
Okay.
And he said, can you go over there and
No,
meet?
the tenant, not the landlord, the tenant.
Oh, I don't know. That was between him and,
Okay. Just wanted clarification on that.
yeah.
And then interested in your background. You started off with your handyman service back in 2009. How did you transition into the role you're in now?
I actually have a girlfriend for many years, and she ran a bar, and so she's the manager. So she talked me into buying a bar.
Well, good for you. I hope it works out for you.
I hope you don't break up.
Be nice to her. So how are you devoting your time between the bar and your handyman service business?
The bar is it's going to be the most focused. The handyman stuff is just simple stuff for people on Mesquite. There's a lot of elderly people that are retired that don't change light bulbs and, can't get on a ladder. So that's the kind of stuff I'm doing. So a few hours a day.
Okay. And do you have any employees with your handyman service?
No,
Okay.
it's just me.
So you can control how much business you take and it won't
Absolutely.
interfere in your operation of the bar.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like an exciting endeavor and I hope it works out for you. Good luck.
Thanks.
And for clarification, he has entered into an agreement with the slot route operator, so he will have a slot route operator there, and he did complete the compliance seminar as well.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions or comments in Las Vegas before I go to Commissioner Krolicki? All right. Commissioner Krolicki, do you have anything?
Yes, please. Thank you. Mr. Reiger, welcome. Thank you for coming in front of the commission today. I appreciated your optimism and report on Mesquite's business environment. You said it was strong and good, and that's very pleasing to all of us. I do have not to be too cute here, but if you had a cricket team, you could have Mad Mike's playing the Mad Dogs. It could be a big annual event in Clark County. Mike, and one of my commissioners already mentioned this, but the management of the property, you said you represented maybe 5 or 8 hours a day would be on property, on site, and when you weren't, it would be your girlfriend who would be there. Not to be personal, but that just is that sufficient management? You folks can handle all the things you need to juggle and split that management responsibility.
Absolutely. She's there 8 to 10 hours a day. And then right now I'm there about 8 to 10 hours a day also. So, and we flip flop shifts. 11 to 11.
So it's open from 11 to 11. It's not a 24-hour operation.
We were going to go. Yeah.
In the future, he may decide to go 24 hours, but right now it's not 24 hours.
I couldn't hear that. You weren't speaking into the
Sorry about
microphone.
that. So right now the operation is from 11 to 11. He may decide to go to 24 hours in the future, but right now that business is only open from 11 to 11.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So if there are no additional questions or comments at this time, I would ask if anyone has a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Game Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Thank you for being here today and for waiting to speak with us. And congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Agent Marta Rosen for her help during the investigation process as well.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 4.
Restricted number 4 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 29932 for restricted gaming license. It is also the application of Lucero Enterprises, Inc. to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 29932. It is also the applications of Kevin Lucero and Diana Lucero as officers, directors, trustees, and beneficiaries as noted on the agenda. You also have the application of the Lucero Family Trust for registration as a holding company. Finally, you have the application of the Lucero Family Trust for licensure as a shareholder as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Thank you. Good morning, or afternoon, I guess, technically like 8:41 seconds ago.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Debbie Cornine with Century Gaming Technology. With me today is Mr. Jeff Donato and Kevin and Diana Lucero. There was a affirmative presentation given to the board, which Mr. Donato would be happy to give to the commission as well. Otherwise, we are here to answer any questions you might have.
I would ask if any of my fellow commissioners would like a presentation. Yes, we have a request. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to make this through without coughing. I have this lingering cough I can't get rid of, but I'm gonna do my best. Since 2007, Mr. and Mrs. Lucero have franchised and operated 7-Eleven store number 29932 in their individual names. In conjunction therewith, Mr. and Mrs. Lucero currently hold all the licenses for the store, including the restricted gaming license. Although Mr. and Mrs. Lucero currently hold the gaming license for the store, they still use Century Gaming as their slot route operator. In approximately 1991, and before the Luceros franchised the store, the original landlord created the gaming rights for the premises pursuant to the lease agreement and in compliance with Reg 3.012. In 2012, the original landlord sold the property. However, the original landlord carved out and reserved any and all gaming rights for the premises. In 2015, the original landlord then sold and assigned the gaming rights to Lucero Enterprises, Inc., which is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Lucero's trust. Since that time, Lucero Enterprises, Inc. has held the gaming rights for the premises and has been a landlord receiving fixed monthly rent for only that portion of the premises where gaming is being conducted. Currently, Mr. and Mrs. Lucero are the gaming licensee and they participate in the gaming revenue with CGT as the SRO. In turn, Mr. and Mrs. Lucero pay to Lucero Enterprises, Inc. a fixed monthly rent for the gaming area. If the application before you today is approved, however, CGT will become the gaming licensee and Lucero Enterprises, Inc. would then share in the gaming revenue as a landlord of the gaming rights for the premises. These changes are being made in preparation for Mr. and Mrs. Lucero selling the store, which is currently on the market. If the store is sold, CGT would remain the gaming licensee and Lucero Enterprises, Inc. would remain the gaming rights holder and continue to share in the gaming revenue. And with that, we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to open it up to Commissioner Krolicki first in the north.
Thank you,
for any
Madam Chair.
questions.
I don't have any questions on this.
Thank you. How about here in Las Vegas?
Thank you both for coming and for the presentation. I do appreciate it. Why are you selling the store?
Hi, good afternoon. I've been in the business since 2003, actually 20 years just passed a couple of days ago. So prior to that, I was 20 years in the food service business here in Las Vegas. So I'm moving on to different careers. I want to get into life coaching and consulting. Done, I guess, my due diligence for 20 years. I always put a timeline on, what I do for my career. So my wife and I we're just kind of reinventing ourselves and moving forward. And so that's where I'm at with that.
Well, it sounds exciting, and I wish you luck with your new endeavor. And life coaching sounds very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no areas of concern.
Commissioner Cohen? All right, well, thank you for being here today and waiting to speak with us. Because of the open meeting laws, I never know what questions there's gonna be and gotta, sometimes have you available for questions, but we appreciate it again for you being here. I think this matter has been addressed in the investigation, the board meeting, and so it's ripe for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move for approval of restricted item number 4 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Agent Jones and Agent Peters for all their help in walking through these gaming rights and to understand this properly. So we appreciate all their time and attention to this application.
Well, thank you for that, and we hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, Madam Secretary, could you please read in restricted number 9?
Restricted number 9 is the application of Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Love's Travel Stop number 857 for a restricted gaming license and the application for a waiver of the requirement of Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 3.0153B as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Madam Secretary. Phyllis Gilland for representing Sartini Gaming. We are requesting a waiver of Section 3.1015 regarding 7 machines. We're asking for 10 machines at this location. Love's Travel Stop in Tonopah, and we provided a list of items that we felt met. The slots are incidental to primary business at this location at the board. I'm happy to walk through those again, but I was asked at that meeting by Chair Hendrick for additional information on Love's, which I would like to put on the record, and I will read it fast.
Thank
if
you.
that's okay.
Please.
They do, in addition to, I use the word convenience store, they use the word store, but they do have, in addition to the showers and things like that, they have trucks, hair services, and I'll just read real quickly: cat scales, transflow machines, emergency roadside assistance, tire pass, truck part sales. Oh, I'm going to give you this piece of paper. How's that? Truck part sales, batteries, wipers, fluids, those kinds of things. Truck RV dump station, bulk propane, overnight parking, RV parking, pet dog area. And amenities include showers, laundries, copying, fax, Wi-Fi, business, check cashing, ATM. Along with 2 restaurants, ready-made food, on-site kitchen. They sell apparel, mobile to-go center, CBs, radios, chargers, gift card center, and souvenir shop. So we believe that based on the numbers we provided before and the items listed in the code section that our gaming is incidental to their business. And I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Krolicki. Do you have any questions or comments on this item?
I actually do. Number one, I appreciate the business that the travel stops offer. As a person who's traveled rural Nevada for decades, it's always a pleasure to go into facilities like yours for some civilization and gas and those things. My one question though is I'm not sure where you are. I see Esmeralda County is giving approvals for this, but your address is in Tonopah, which is Nye County. I know Esmeralda wraps all around, but I just still can't get an image of where you are in Highway 95.
Well, I happen to have with me in Carson City, Carrie Daniels, who is the regional convenience store manager. Carrie, if you would step forward and give us exact location, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. So Love's Travel Stop is on the Reno side as you're traveling into Tonopah, right outside the city limits. So it is Esmeralda County, right as you're going into Tonopah, before you hit the Chevron station.
In the Burger King.
Yes.
Okay, now I know where you are. I knew the state line or the county line was right there, but you just for post office purposes use Tonopah.
Correct.
All right, I understand. Thank you. That's the only question I had. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Made you
Thank
do
you.
something today.
My fellow commissioners in Las Vegas, any questions or comments?
I just noted from the materials that the monthly gaming revenues for the 10 machines is nominal compared to the total monthly revenue from the primary business, excluding the gas sales from the figures that we received. So I have no reservations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also very comfortable that the board has established all the facts that, that you read so quickly into the record.
Sorry.
And I'm comfortable with this application as a result of that. And so if anyone believes this is right for a motion,
I move for approval of restricted agenda item number 9 is read into the record by Madam Secretary. And having found the commission has authority pursuant to regulation 3.015 support to grant this, and I move for approval as recommended.
any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much. And Agent Martirosyan, thank you for her time on this as well. Thank you.
The record should reflect there were none opposed.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next agenda item, please.
You have one regulation agenda item regarding proposed regulations for inclusion in the report to the governor's office pursuant to Executive Order 2023-003 as noted on the agenda.
All right, I've asked members of the commission, I've asked our senior analysts and our 12-month a year employee of the month.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. My name is Jose Torres. I am the commission's senior research specialist. Item number 5 on today's agenda is the consideration of regulations for inclusion in the report to the governor's office pursuant to Governor Joe Lombardo's Executive Order 2023-003, and that was issued in early January. Executive Order 2023-003 requires all Nevada executive branch agencies, boards, and commissions to review existing state regulations subject to their enforcement and recommend improvements and at least 10 regulations for removal. The Gaming Control Board divisions were tasked with finding between 3 and 5 regulations that could be improved or removed. The regulations suggested for removal were then preliminarily ranked by division chiefs in descending order with an emphasis on those having the most beneficial impact on the licensees, the state, and the board. Then on April 12th, the Gaming Control Board held a public workshop to solicit input from stakeholders regarding all the regulations identified for improvement and removal. The list in front of you today are the result of that workshop. The improvements list contained 8 regulations. Recommended improvements aim to streamline, clarify, or reduce the regulatory burden on licensees. The removals list contains 16 regulations. The aim of those recommendations is to remove regulatory requirements that are burdensome to the industry or obsolete. The board further ranked the removals during that public workshop on April 12th. Board staff is available to answer questions on specific questions on those regulations if you do have them. Today, you may change the ranking of the removals or remove regulations from either list. However, due to open meeting law requirements, the commission may not add additional regulations to either of those lists. After this meeting, I will work with Deputy Attorney General Brennick to finish compiling the report and submit it to the governor's office before the deadline of May 1st. I am happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Madam Chair, may
Thank
I
you.
ask a quick question?
Yes, Commissioner Korlicki, please.
Well, first, in a comment. Mr. Torres and Ms. Brynick, thank you so much. This is hefty work. And to grind through it, I know you've been working not the 8 to 5 realm in this, and weekends and after hours. So again, thank you for all your effort for tackling this. I'll have other questions later, but just for right now, why are we prioritizing these suggested, amendments to regs or, removal. Why wouldn't we, do all of them? The regulatory meeting, we have to go through the LCB, there are hearings, it's many of the same people. I'm not sure why we are triaging the order. Why wouldn't we do everything that we approve? Does
Commissioner
that make sense?
Krolicki, the order,
That does. Commissioner, the executive order requires the agencies to rank those regulations in, I believe, descending order of priority. So it was a request from the governor's office that that be included in the report that's submitted.
did you hear that okay?
Yeah, I did. Okay, I accept that. If it said it in the governor's order, that's why we're doing it. But I would hope if regulation 15 makes as much sense as regulation 2, or in the order of out of the 16, I hope we're tackling all of those. And I'm not sure why we wouldn't do a comprehensive overview. But if we're conforming, I get it. Thank you.
I would simply say that there are certainly regulations that are being looked at outside of these immediate lists. The problem is that some of them, for example, regulations related to succession planning and that kind of thing are fairly complex. We had a deadline to, and I think, let me take a step back. I think the chair of the board and myself took some time to figure out how to be most efficient when all boards and commissions were to prepare these lists pursuant to the order. And the way we're kind of structured, it didn't make sense for us to have collateral proceedings looking at all of these things. So we tried to collaborate, and the board and the chair were kind enough to do, quite frankly, all the heavy lifting. And I recognize that and I appreciate it greatly, so that we wouldn't have duplicative efforts. And it's just a matter of time since the order came out, noticing it for public, record, and some of the issues that have arisen that we would like to revisit just couldn't be addressed in the time frame that we had. Would that be a fair summary, you think, Chair?
Yes, Chair Tagliati. For the record, Kirk Hendrick, you're absolutely right. This was a large effort that we thank Mr. Torres and Deputy Brennig for doing. And the order that you explained is extremely accurate. We had to have 2 public meetings for this. The board called theirs a regulatory workshop, whereas the commission is the one that'll be making the actual vote to present the recommendations to the governor pursuant to the governor's executive order. But these, again, as I stated at the workshop, these and the commission's vote today, the board's recommendation, the commission's vote today are simply recommendations to the governor. If there's any actual changes, they will go before a true regulatory workshop and back before the commission for actual changes. At that time, the industry has already told me that they will have more suggestions that are outside of these. And we'll take those possibly over a 2-day workshop would be my guess. There's a lot of things to be done, and we want to be sure that the industry and all the stakeholders get an opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
As part of the executive order report required, we have to include also the comments from industry or from stakeholders. In addition to that, we also include recommendations on other regulations that the industry recommended for removal as well. During the regulation workshop, we did get 4 regulations also recommended by stakeholders that will be included in that report. But as Chairman Hendrick correctly pointed out, this has been a very collaborative effort of board personnel to get all this together. But at this time, we are not actually changing any of these regulations. It's just for inclusion into that report that it's due on May 1st.
So Commissioner Krolicki, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, the process makes sense. But again, and Chairman Hendrick and you know, the board, I realize how much time this has taken and will continue to take, and especially to meet the deadline. I just hope you know, we'll triage the list, if you will. And I heard Mr. Reeser and others, you know, make presentations, and getting the transcript the other day, you know, so quickly was very helpful to read that. So my kudos to getting that 104-page transcript to us. But I do hope that when we actually get into the regulatory hearing process, that we are doing, you know, truly a comprehensive effort in tackling as many of these things simultaneously as we can. But I understand that we're complying with the governor's executive order for ranking.
Thank you. How about here in Las Vegas? Do we have any questions for Mr. Torres or any comments or concerns?
Thank you for your hard work and super sharp suit.
Because my brightest, shiniest suit. But it has been a very collaborative effort with all board staff. The chiefs have really worked closely with myself and Deputy Attorney General Brennigan, putting this list together and coming up with the precise language and the explanations. There's certain requirements within the executive order, such as economic impact. While we cannot do a wholesale or an in-depth economic impact, we have to uh, do a general assessment of whether any of those changes would have a negative or positive economic impact on the state, the industry, and the board as well. So it might, you know, those 30 pages or so, and then 16 pages, we have to really consider each one of those separately and ask board staff for tremendous input.
I can discern just from listening to the presentation and reviewing the transcript that everybody's been very thoughtful, deliberate, and insightful. And I have a lot of confidence in me personally accepting the recommendations in terms of the priority and the items specifically for the regulations that were selected to be presented to the governor for consideration. So thank you for your hard work, truly, all of you.
Commissioner Solis Rainey, do you have any comments or questions?
I had one substantive question on one of the regulations that was recommended for removal. I don't have a problem with it. I'm familiar with how time consuming it is. It's on Regulation 3.100, the employee report. I remember reviewing that back in the day, and it takes a long time to prepare. But my question is that it indicated in the materials that that information was already captured in the NGC 09. And my understanding was that the NGC 09 captures owners and officers, which is a lot less than what the employee report captured. So is the board comfortable that the other positions are captured elsewhere in maybe different reports?
Chief Hoffman.
Yes, we were confident that the other positions are captured during the audit process. And between the audit process and NGC 9, we feel that it's covered.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, I haven't asked Commissioner Cohen, but I'm going to now. Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, comments. I personally would like to thank both you, Mr. Torres, and Deputy Attorney General Breinig for this comprehensive, overview. I know a great deal of work went into this in a very short period of time, and I think this complies once it's submitted with the governor's mandate. And then it'll be for a later time to determine which, if any, will make the cuts or be added. And I thank you.
Well, and I echo all the comments, but also the divisions. I mean, they had to to funnel it up, and so we appreciate that. Again, all the heavy lifting is in that side of the room and this side of the room and here. So we thank you for that. If I know we have to have two separate motions, so if would anyone be prepared to make a motion, excuse me, regarding regulations identified for improvement?
I'll go ahead and make the motion. Madam Chair, I move to include the following Nevada Gaming Commission regulations identified for improvement as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board in the report for submission to the Governor's Office pursuant to Section 1 of Executive Order 2023-003. And those regulations are 5.110 sub 2, 5.230, 6.080 sub 6, 6.090 sub 11, section 20.030 sub 7, section 20.070 sub 1, section 23.040 sub 3, and section 26.060.
Mr. Torres, could you give this to our court reporter? All right, is there any discussion on the motion?
Madam
No.
Chair, if I can, I didn't know if we were going to go through each of these regs individually, and there's not a need to, but I would like to state for the record, again, how appreciative I am of the incredible work that the staff did and all the chiefs, and I've already said Mr. Torres and Ms. Breinig. The industry was smiling at that workshop, listening to this, and obviously they had additional items, but these discussions have been full, robust, open, and very thorough. And I think it's just important to have that comment on the record, but I appreciate it. I will support the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, and there are none opposed. Moving to anyone choosing to make a motion regarding regulations identified for removal for the report to the governor?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make that motion with respect to the regulations identified for removal pursuant to Executive Order 2023-003, Section 2. I move to include the list of regulations proposed by the board, which include Regulation 3.100, Regulation 5.215, Regulation 14.105, Regulation 14.210 sub 2, Regulation 14.170 sub 1 B2, Regulation 14.160, Regulation 5.105 sub 8, Regulation 5.200 sub 3A, Regulation 5.025, Regulation 6.090 sub 2E, Regulation 5.225 sub 19, Surveillance Standard for Non-Restricted Licensees Standard 12 sub 9, Surveillance Standard for Non-Restricted Licensees Standard 1 sub 2, Surveillance Standards for Non-Restricted Licensees Standard 1.010 sub 5, Regulation 5.10 sub 2F, and Regulation 6.118 sub 4.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Thank you.
I believe the next to last one should have read Regulation 5.180 subsection 2F. And then just in the avoidance of doubt, I want to be sure that this motion incorporates the recommendation to identify and rank in descending order of priority for removal.
It does.
Thank you.
All right. So that's the motion before us. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Korlicki, we didn't hear you.
Aye. I'm sorry. My light
Thank
was
you.
on.
All right, thank you. And there are none opposed. Thank you, Mr. Torres, very much.
And I just wanted to also echo my thanks. I neglected to do that because we moved on a little quickly, but thank you to the board and all the chiefs and their staff that I know put a lot of hours, as well as Mr. Torres and Deputy Attorney General Brining. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda next on our agenda are the administrative reports. I could start with Chairman Hendrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at May's agenda, we're anticipating a one-day board meeting, which will be on Wednesday, May 3rd. We're looking at 9 non-restricted items right now and 13 restricted items. We're also anticipating a special meeting on Wednesday, May 17th, the day before the commission meeting, 2 related items. that are primarily being deemed worthy of a special meeting because the applicant has multiple long-distance international travelers. So we're trying to accommodate them on that. There's also a possibility that there may be a second special meeting that hasn't been determined yet, and we'll keep you posted as we learn more. So it'll be a very busy May.
All right, thank you very much. From the Attorney General's office today?
Nothing today, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Madam Secretary, could we close our, with our last agenda item, please, public comments?
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
All right, I will first go to Carson City. Is there anyone present in Carson City wishing to make a public comment? Please step forward to the podium.
I'm seeing none.
All right, thank you. And here in Las Vegas, anyone present wishing to make a public comment? It appears there's no one stepping to the podium at this time.
Madam Chair, if I might, I'd like to make a brief comment. I just wanted to make the announcement that this will be my last meeting for the Nevada Gaming Commission. 4 years in this job has been a dream. 4 years is also enough. It's time for new blood. There's so many people I'd like to thank at this point, and I know I'm going to omit some people. And to those I omit, I truly apologize. I'd first like to thank Governor Joe Lombardo and Governor Steve Sisolak for allowing me the privilege of serving. Commission chairs Jennifer Tagliati, she's been absolutely wonderful to be in, and as vice chairman for 2 reigns. I know how tough of a job it could be. Also to former commission chair John Moran. To my fellow commissioners, Rosa, all I can say is it's been an absolute pleasure serving with you. I've learned so much by listening to you. We haven't been on the same page for 100% of the time, but one wouldn't expect that. But our friendship, will survive by leaving this commission. And I thank you. I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. Ogana Brown, I love you. You're wonderful. I should have taken more language courses so I can understand some of the things you've said over these many meetings we've had. And of course, the newest member to the commission, Mr. Perlicki, you're a breath of fresh air for this commission. My friends at the board level, going back to Sandra, Douglas Morgan, Bryn Gibson, and now Kirk Hendrick. Also fellow, other board members, Terry Johnson, Phil Katsoris, Brittany Watkins, and Judge Assad. I wish I could have worked more with Jose Torres. You're wonderful in the position, and I'm glad I participated in the interview process with Chair Tagliati. Executive secretaries Marie Bell and Nicole, the commission is in wonderful hands with you. Those are the unsung heroes that make the job that we have. It's a difficult job at times, but what I can say is that the people who surrounded us, the support staff, has made the job so much easier. And I would be remiss if I didn't do a special shout out to 2 of my favorite people I've gotten to know during the course of being a commissioner. That'd be Chief Deputy Attorney General Darlene Caruso and Deputy Attorney General Tiffany Brining. The late night phone calls, the early morning phone calls, wading through my I should trademark this. The spirit of when I would be upset about something would be crankiness. And I would say I'm cranky about agenda item number X or Y. And I thank you for making the job that at least I did much easier and helpful. You were all my friends that made this journey so much enjoyable. And rather than me hear the music play me off as like with the Academy Awards, I wish to thank everyone connected with these 2 agencies and allowing the state of Nevada for me to serve in this capacity. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll miss you. I want to thank you for making my appointment when I arrived here seamless as it could be. You're the first person to offer help, the first person to be available to me, and I always appreciated it. And I also appreciated that you've always run the clock on public comments. Because I'm, and so, as and you've been available as my vice chair and been super helpful to me, and I really appreciate it. You're the best.
Thank you for those kind words. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I'll miss you. We came into this almost at the same time and we learned together. And, I think the state of Nevada is better for having had your service.
Thank you very much.
And Steve, I will definitely miss you. You're my partner in crime. We share snacks together because we always get hungry. And you've been nothing but kind to me and welcoming and showing me the ropes and giving me tips. And I'll always be grateful for making my entry into the gaming world as seamless as possible. And you will always have a friend in me.
Thank you for those kind words.
And Commissioner Cohen, Steve, you were really, I think, the first one who reached out to me to offer me that help in lunch. And I think I had to cancel a cup of coffee with you before my first meeting because Chairman Hendrick and others decided to have a workshop of some kind. So they were a training seminar. But thank you. State service is hard, it's long, but to do it, as you have so honorably and capably, it's a gift to the citizens of Nevada. I suspect there'll be other service opportunities for you. I'm just sorry you're not staying on longer to coach and mentor this guy a little bit more, but Godspeed to you, sir. And just thank you for everything you've done. And I look forward to not being the rookie commissioner here at some point in time soon. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Commissioner Perlicki. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, that concludes the April Nevada Gaming Commission meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you.